All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with a massive live edition of the Patriots Daily Podcast, powered by Prize Picks, powered by Omaha Steaks, powered by Monarch Money, and powered by the 2025 NFL trade deadline. We are already approaching 1,000 live viewers. Just 45 seconds. We're past 1,000 live viewers, 50 seconds into this show. So we appreciate you guys for joining us as we take the next hour and change to react to what the heck has gone on across the NFL over really the last 5 or 6 hours and even before that. Full disclosure, I am sitting here with 3 screens, 2 computers in front of me. I am double dipping for SportsIllustrated.com, covering the entire NFL trade deadline for our SI.com tracker. So shameless plug. If you need to catch up, go to SI.com. First story on the screen is our full tracker with every move that's been made. But what we're going to do here as well is react to what's gone on so far, talk about what the Patriots could potentially do over the next 50 to 51 minutes. And we're also going to dive into, as we said yesterday, a little bit about what happened to the Patriots last weekend against the Atlanta Falcons, specifically on defense, which will then tie into some moves that New England could make on the defense side of the ball before 4 o'clock. But before we get into it, Taylor, what a day it's been so far. Now, the big one, it's the Jets. They're selling off, complete fire sale. Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams headed to the Colts and the Dallas Cowboys. So Jerry wasn't messing around talking about all the trades they were going to make. And the Colts at 7-2 really bolster their secondary. Rashid Shaheed, who was someone who we had talked about a little bit as a Patriots target, goes from New Orleans to Seattle.
Just gonna throw deep all season, I guess.
I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been more than fine in that room, just getting peppered with targets, leads the league in receiving yards, despite already having his bye week. And they add another deep threat to that offense. So that was a crazy move. So for, what else we have? You know what? Here we go. Well, we'll pull it up. If we add to stage, here is the NFL trade deadline tracker. Every big move across the league thus far. We hit on Quinnen Williams, the big shocker from the Jets. The Bears went and got Joe Tyron Shoyinka to bolster their pass rush after losing Daye Odedingbo. I forget how to say his last name, but he tore his Achilles this weekend. Rashid Shaheed goes to Seattle. Sauce goes to the Colts. Jacoby goes to the Jaguars. That one has gotten buried under the rug thus far. So that was another big move today. And Logan Wilson went to the Dallas Cowboys this morning. There's been a couple more over the last couple of days. Draymond Jones goes from Tennessee to the Ravens as they continue try to sell off pieces in Tennessee. So a lot of stuff has gone on so far, Taylor. But from what's happened so far today, specifically in the AFC East, just what's your reaction and how crazy has this deadline been so far?
I mean, the Jets selling off 2 of their best defensive players is pretty huge. Quinnen Williams is the guy where anytime the Patriots face the Jets, he's the one you kind of have circled. I'm not missing something, am I? Is something going on?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Quinnen Williams is the guy you always really circle when it comes to facing the Jets. So him no longer being in the division, very nice. Basically was replaced by Mozzie Smith, who I think is more of a nose tackle. I haven't really kept up with his career necessarily. Clearly moved from Dallas. And then Sauce Gardner, one of the, I don't think he's necessarily a top tier corner, but he's definitely one of the league's better corners, highly competitive. So those 2 no longer being in the division is a plus for the Patriots. And New England hasn't even played the Jets yet this year. So that's 2 matchups against a defense that still has some pretty good pieces, but is definitely going to be a bit weaker. Jacoby Myers, him moving makes some sense with Travis Hunter getting injured in Jacksonville. Obviously, he was kind of getting phased out. I was reading reports that they wanted to get guys like Trey Tucker and Jack Besh more involved. So now, and Jacoby had been wanting out since week 1. There was some speculation when we were still in training camp over whether he could potentially end up a Patriot. So good to see him in a situation with a pretty bright young quarterback who, I mean, the Jaguars are doing pretty well this season. Actually, what's their schedule been like? I haven't checked up on.
So they're 5. I know they're 5-3, and they just won an overtime against the Raiders, which is funny because that was against Vegas. So they're kind of like trying to keep themselves in it. I wrote up a little something today on what their receiver room looks like now. Travis Hunter went down with the knee injury in practice and is on IR, so I feel like that was a depth move. And then if they can keep winning, just continuing to bolster that wide receiver core around Trevor Lawrence for the time being. So
Yeah, I want to actually check out. I think because the receivers there, Brian Thomas Jr., who is already there were some talks that he might be moved, which was crazy. Do you have any insight into what exactly is going on there? Is that just like a thing where he doesn't fit their culture? Because
I don't know if
he's
it's
a very
culture.
talented dude. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's much as culture as is him and Lawrence just haven't been able to get on the same page. Because like even last year when he was pretty good, I feel like they were hit or miss together. And Mac Jones was one of the ones who was kind of helping Brian Thomas hit his stride last year late in the year too, because Mac played a lot of games towards the end when Trevor was out with the concussion. So I don't know if it's as much culture as just Brian Thomas. I don't want to call it yips, but I feel like he's someone who kind of has had trouble with drops a little bit this year as well. And again, maybe it is an attitude culture thing, but I feel like more so it's just him and Trevor trying to get on the same page. Yeah,
just a really rare talent to be so willing to get rid of. But looking at our lads and their depth chart, so Brian Thomas Jr. looks like he's hurt, Tim Patrick is hurt, De'Ami Brown is hurt. So right now their receiving core is Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, and Austin Trammell, who respectfully I've never heard of before. So this was a very
practice
for the Jags.
Yeah, Trammell was a practice squad receiver who was elevated last week when what's his name? Travis Hunter went down. So yeah, there's been
they don't even have really any particularly notable tight ends. Johnny Mund, Hunter Long,
Brenton Strange is out for the year too, right?
He got hurt. He's not in the depth chart. Let me look.
I think he got hurt or is on IR.
Yeah, he's on injured reserve. Travis Hunter, obviously. Yeah, so they really needed some help offensively. So Jacoby Myers, if he wanted some opportunities, I have a feeling he's going to get a lot of them in that offense. And trying to think of some other big moves that were made. Obviously, Jalen Phillips was moved. I don't think we really got a chance to hit on that one, but a move that he was connected to the Patriots. There was some talks about they showed interest in him, although I never really thought it made sense to give someone that talented to a division rival. But instead, he ends up going to the Philadelphia Eagles, who once again are putting the chips in and trying to acquire some really young talent in their defensive front. So good for them. So another really talented pass rusher who is no longer in the AFC East. Wonder if we also see some other movements from the Dolphins on their defensive front, like Bradley Chubb was someone who they were talking about potentially moving. But yeah, I think this has been a pretty good trade deadline for the Patriots, or past couple of days for the Patriots, because some talented people now out of the AFC East.
We'll talk about some targets the Pats could potentially go after in a little bit. But one that has already gone, and we kind of mentioned Shaheed a little bit. Would you have wanted the Patriots to go after a guy like that, to add him to the room? I know we talked about, and I frankly don't believe they should make a move for a receiver. I know that obviously talent is talent, and talent trumps all, and they could use some more in that room. But I just feel like where they're at right now, like I'm okay with them standing pat and waiting at receiver and not messing up, frankly, the vibes and the juju in that room, because it's been phenomenal thus far. Even though they could probably hit another level, I just think they're hitting on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, with the Kayshon Boutte situation, I might have been more open-minded to the idea if we don't know how long he's going to be out. We heard from Mike Vrabel that he's going to be day-to-day. Vrabel said he's probably not going to practice early in the week. And the Patriots just signed Brendan Rice, former USC receiver and former LA Charger, to their practice squad. So they have a little bit more depth at that spot, but I also just didn't know if a guy like that, someone who you would expect to be a significant contributor, I just didn't feel like it was a good fit in that room, where Kyle Williams is someone that Mike Vrabel said is going to have an increased role. We already saw it last weekend. And he's been practicing in multiple receiver spots. So he's got more experience with Drake May than Rashid Shaheed, although he is a veteran. And also, I thought Kyle Williams got open a few times against A.J. Terrell. It's just he and Drake need to get on the same page. There was that slant route where Kyle Williams ran it 5 steps earlier. Kayshon Boutte had run it at 3. So that miscommunication was probably on Kyle Williams. We know that connection hasn't really been there. But if there's no Kayshon Boutte and he's not practicing early in the week, those are going to be Kyle Williams reps to take advantage of. So maybe that helps a little bit, getting a week of practice for them to get their chemistry down a little bit more. And the fact that we saw Kyle Williams on an early 3rd down seemed to hint that he's showing some kind of progress behind the scenes. And you still got Efton Chisholm waiting for a bigger opportunity. And we saw him get some reps in the last game in his second game active. So I would have loved to see another field stretcher on the team. especially one with experience who's done it at the NFL level before. But this is a very crowded room already, so it does make sense to me that they decided to hold their horses. And maybe if you want to add some significant boosts, do it with whatever draft capital you want next year. But, I didn't think that Rashid Shaheed was a make or break kind of guy. It just would have been a really nice, little bonus addition, but that doesn't seem to be where the Patriots are headed around this trade deadline.
Totally. I'm with you. All right. We are just over 40 minutes until the NFL trade deadline coming up at 4 p.m. I will give you guys that notification every couple minutes here to make sure you're locked in and ready to roll. We're at 3:18, the deadline coming up at 4 p.m. Waiting on the Patriots to make a move while there have been plenty of others around the league. Usually it's NBA, MLB trade deadlines, jam-packed, teams trying to make their stretch runs. NFL has kind of, stood pat for the most part. There's usually, one move, two moves across the, the couple weeks leading in. But today's been pretty wild so far. Again, if you're just joining us, headlined by Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, both leaving the New York Jets, heading to the Colts, who are loading up as they remain atop the AFC. And then Quinnen Williams going to the Dallas Cowboys. So Patriots road, at least in the AFC East, getting a lot easier. Not that the Jets were that tough of a battle anyway. But we'll hang out here for a while. Through the trade deadline, reacting to moves and seeing if the Patriots make anything. Approaching 5,700 live viewers across all platforms.
Hello.
We appreciate you guys. What we're going to do in the meantime, though, is sort of finish off what we were going for in yesterday's show, recapping the Patriots versus Atlanta game, because Pats win 24-23. It was an ugly one. They were able to win ugly, able to get it done. But there were a couple notes from the offense and defense that we wanted to get to. We hit the offense yesterday. So we'll do the defense today, and then it'll kind of tie into what the Patriots could potentially go after here at the trade deadline. So Patriots couldn't really contain Drake London, the wide receiver. He went off. He had 3 touchdowns, I think, on 8 or 9 catches. And then they only got after and sacked Michael Penix one time throughout the entire game, which ties into the fact that they may need some secondary help and they definitely need a pass rusher. But diving into it, Taylor, a little bit deeper, when you watch the film over again and saw exactly how the Patriots were or weren't able, to keep the Falcons in check, who scored 23 points, could have scored 24 and tied the game. But what did you see from the Patriots against Atlanta on the defensive side that both encouraged you? Because, again, they once again held a running back to less than 50 yards rushing in Bijan Robinson, which is huge considering he's one of the top backs in the game, but struggled a little bit in the pass game and couldn't get after Penix. So again, what'd you see and how can this ultimately improve?
So I'll start with the coverage, because when I asked Mike Vrabel specifically, did you feel like was Marcus Jones put in some tough spots, and what did you think of the red zone defense? He said that he noted that Marcus Jones has had similar matchups going up against Keon Coleman, who is a very similar guy in terms of height and weight to a Drake London. And while I understood that, there's also the difference in dog between those two. Like, respect to Keon Coleman, but Drake London is built different, and we saw that a lot. And there were just a lot of times where Vrabel noted specifically punching at the pocket. So when the receiver's making the catch, you want to make sure that you're trying to affect it. Marcus Jones just wasn't big enough, and that was really what it came down to. I don't know how much more he could have done. So as hard as it is, just be like, hey, a guy gave up 2 touchdowns, but I want to give him a pass. I really didn't know how much more he could have done. Like, he was all over Drake London both times. And credit to Penix Jr. and Drake London for Penix giving him those throws at the top shelf, and then London actually paying them off. And the one against Carlton Davis was crazy. Like, that was a one-handed catch. Crazy. Live from the press box, I didn't think he got 2 feet down. And then you quickly saw in the replay, nope, screw me. He absolutely did. Like, it was really hard to critique the corners on those touchdowns. I got to say that. And then the other catch that Marcus Jones gave up for a conversion was another one-handed grab to Bijan Robinson, where then Bijan just carried him and Roberts Spillane for extra yards. Like, I want to be critical. I want to make sure that I'm holding guys to account, but I don't know how much more you can expect from Marcus Jones against physical freaks like Drake London and Bijan Robinson. So I kind of gave him a pass. Also, Carlton Davis for the touchdown. I do have to say there were a couple curl routes that Carlton Davis gave up for chunk gains. Also, there was a scramble where in a man coverage situation, you really can't be peeking into the backfield. You need to keep eyes on your receiver. He got caught being a little greedy, and then Drake London was able to peel and reverse field, and Carlton Davis was well behind him. So I didn't love that, but not a bad day, I think, for either guy. I think there were just some reps where you had really talented guys on the other side, and they were able to make plays. And with Christian Gonzalez, he also gave up some catches and conversions when he was in zone coverage. But when he was against Drake London and man, it was a wrap. Like, especially in press, Drake London wasn't doing a whole lot to separate from Christian Gonzalez, who continues to look like the player that we expect. And that deep catch, man, obviously Christian Gonzalez was called for pass interference, which I don't mind, because if you bite on a double move and that guy takes off, I would much rather you get called for PI and be in position to prevent a touchdown than you just letting the guy run by you and it's a long score. I believe that was also something that Bill Belichick used to coach. Like, if you bite, make sure you make contact and give yourself a fighting chance there. And then even at the catch point, he almost was able to deflect it, pass interference or not. Drake London just did a great job fighting for it. And also Gonzo fell on his head, which didn't help. And when I actually looked at the touchdowns, when the Patriots were in cover one, all of those reps, pretty much, Christian Gonzalez was going up against Drake London, which Mike Vrabel said was part of the plan. It was really those cover zero looks when they were in the red zone where there were some bunch and stack looks that the Falcons were able to take advantage of. And on the last one, frankly, I thought it was a good call on the Carlton Davis touchdown, because they had a similar motion that we had seen earlier in the game where tight end comes in motion, then runs on a crosser, and they actually had zero and passed it off pretty well. Marte Mapu dropped off. He was mugging on the line of scrimmage, dropped underneath if it was a quick throw from Penix, and you also had inside leverage from a safety. And they had the guys pretty well covered. Carlton Davis maybe could have been more competitive because it was an out-breaking route. It looked like he had outside leverage. I'm not positive, though. I'm just guessing based on where the safety help was. But even still, really good scheming there from the Falcons. When I look back on it, the red zone struggles, I really hate to, not harp on those because you did give up 3 red zone touchdowns, but you also got to tip your cap, man, to Drake London. So
Totally.
I was much more encouraged by the coverage after looking at it in review. Drake London had a great game, and great players are going to make plays like that. And there's not a whole lot of matchups where you really think a guy's going to do that kind of thing, especially if Christian Gonzalez is healthy for the whole game. So coverage-wise, and then Charles Woods was also solid when he had to come in for Christian Gonzalez. I don't think that means you don't need extra help at cornerback. I think they still should be pretty active on the market if they can get some better depth at that spot. But I did think the cornerbacks held up pretty well. And also, run defense, man.
Before we get into that, quickly, I just had 2 thoughts, and I'll give you a chance to breathe here. First of all, you mentioned that you gotta just tip your hat to Drake London. Like, that's the stuff that we talked about it on yesterday's show with Drake May struggling a little bit. Like, this Atlanta defense is just damn good. So sometimes, like, Drake May's not gonna be able to continue the historic 5-game stretch, even though he still notched the passer rating over 100 and still made some of the some of the best throws we've seen from him all year. But like, if Drake London's going to go up and make a catch over Christian Gonzalez, like, this sounds like maybe an excuse, but like, so be it. Like, that's going to happen in a battle with those 2 guys every once in a while. Now, if it's against, a lower tier wide receiver that Gonzo should probably, give it up, not give an elbow, but, make a play on, and it's a little different looking at it that way. But Drake London's one of the better receivers in football. So I'm okay with that being sort of a back and forth battle between those 2 guys. Another thing there, you mentioned the cornerback room and potentially needing some help. I know we'll get into targets, but one from the chat that popped up that is kind of interesting is Jonathan Jones from Washington. Because the Commanders are now without Jaden Daniels. They could potentially be selling. The Patriots are in a spot to buy. I know he was a part of the whole get the Belichick regime out type thing, but he's someone who could come back and be a leader in this room and in my opinion, didn't really leave with much ill. Is this crazy to say? I thought this was an interesting comment there.
I don't think it's crazy. I just don't think it's realistic because right now, Jonathan Jones might be a starter. Marshawn Lattimore is out for the season. Trey Amos looks like he's banged up.
Okay.
They've got some depth issues at cornerback. And also, I don't know if you want to bring Jonathan Jones back just for him to be a backup. Like a guy who has had such a storied career here. He's gone. I feel like it makes it messy to bring him back in a situation where he's still in the background. It is a new regime. They're trying to establish new culture, and Mike Vrabel's made it very clear they're full steam ahead. I don't think it's a crazy idea. I just don't think it's something that makes a lot of sense at this point.
Fair point. All right, continue on. What'd you see? Actually, you know what? I'm going to break us up. I'm going to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks, and then we will get into the how the Patriots fared against Atlanta's run game and keeping Bijan Robinson under 50 yards on the game. But before we do, Prize Picks, as you all know, is the presenting sponsor of the Patriots Daily Podcast and the CLNS Media Network. And this episode, along with every episode, is powered by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. And although the weather might be changing, the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is simple to play. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in. Prize Picks is also the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So if you want to pick Drake May to have more rushing yards, more passing yards, more touchdowns thrown in the same lineup, you can do that this weekend coming up as the Patriots head to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. You make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long. So don't wait. Download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS. You will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And now I forgot to double check, and I'm going to do it live right now as we keep talking about Prize Picks. If I hit my Prize Picks lineup last night, I did George Pickens to have more than 66.5 receiving yards. Oh, you know what? Trey McBride, did he score? Let's see. Jacoby Brissett to have more than 248.5 passing yards, and Trey McBride to score a touchdown. Jacoby hit 261. Trey McBride scored a touchdown. Did George Pickens? He hit it 69 yards.
There we go.
Or 79 yards. I did hit last night's Prize Picks lineup. I forgot. I fell asleep during the game, so I forgot to tout it on social media.
Yes, did I.
But now I can carry that over, use it for the next lineup, and keep things rolling throughout the entire football season on Prize Picks. So again, if you want to join, use that code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play $5. All right, let's keep it rolling with the Patriots defense as we approach the half-hour mark leading into the NFL trade deadline. Bijan Robinson held to less than 50 yards, like we mentioned. What did you see? How were they able to control it? And does this strength of theirs continue to give you confidence throughout the second half of the season?
Yeah, so I went into this thinking that the run defense was probably going to be leakier than it looked live because Bijan did have a 15-yard run. He had an 18-yard run. And there were some pretty big gaps for him to exploit. Like on one of the big runs, you saw Caleb on Chase on kind of knife inside. And then that left the edge a little bit open. So Robert Spillane did a good job forcing the running back inside. But Christian Ellis got blocked on the backside, and it took Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson to try to keep that one contained. There was also another run where I think Caleb was a little bit weak setting the edge. I think it was Robert Spillane who got blocked there. Oh, I think they were also trying to run some games because you'd have times where one guy would kind of knife upfield and someone would come over the top, but those created some really big lanes. And is Robert Spillane, I didn't think was great in run defense in this game, honestly. I felt like he did force the running back to make some cuts at times, but he didn't have, I think, any tackles. Might have had one, but I didn't really notice him in a positive way. If anything, I felt like he was chasing and nothing was really going on. So he did play great. Jack Gibbons was very good. Man, he was thrust into a bigger role because of Christian Ellis. I really thought that he looked good, especially in pursuit. Like, he does a great job getting through trash and just finding ways to get to the ball carrier. So the front, I thought, was solid. There were some really great moments from the defensive line, but, man, the defensive backs were fantastic. Christian Gonzalez had 2 tackles. One of them was a run stuff. Carlton Davis led the defense with 3 tackles against the run, and he's really been fantastic against the run all season. Christian Gonzalez has really come on lately. And Marcus Jones, never afraid to stick his face in the fire. There was a play where Bijan literally ran through his face. And I know it counts as a missed tackle, and you could, if I'm a Falcons fan, I'm saying, like, damn, you
got trucked, right?
And he did, but that's what happens when you have Bijan Robinson against Marcus Jones. Like, sometimes you're going to get got, but it didn't.
I would so much rather my 5'8", 5'9" cornerback go and give it his all and get trucked rather than step away and throw out an arm and get it, try and miss a shoelace tackle. So it shows his toughness.
100%. And those were the kind of reps where it could have been a bigger run. If he does decide, I'm not really feeling it, there were some lanes that these running backs, especially Bijan Robinson, could have turned into much bigger gains. But that didn't happen. Marcus Jones was not rattled by that play. He continued to stick his face in the fire and make an impact as a run defender. And also Craig Woodson. he's been a pretty big reason that they're able to play so many light boxes. Of course, it starts with the defensive line in the front and not even really letting a lot of running backs get to the second and third levels. But Craig Woodson fills very quickly. He's not afraid of contact. We've highlighted that in some film review shows where he's literally taking on offensive linemen and isn't really scared. He had a couple tackles as well. So tip of the cap to the defensive backs. The defensive line specifically was very good at points, but then when they weren't able to really create some disruption in the backfield, the cornerbacks and safeties prevented what could have been some much bigger plays where if even one or two of those goes differently, Bijan definitely has more than 50 carries, and you could even say that the momentum of the game could have gone more in the Falcons' favor. I also have to acknowledge, I don't know why they didn't run more. I felt like it wasn't so bad that they should have gotten away from it, especially since it was a pretty competitive game throughout. That's not my problem. All I know is that the Patriots defense overall did look good, even if I thought things could have been tightened up in the defensive front.
All right. I like it. Now, on the note of this defense, run game obviously playing well, pass game needed a little bit of work, and more specifically, the pass rush not being able to get after quarterbacks. I mean, Penix was only sacked once. And K'Lavon Chaisson, Harold Landry have been okay. Chaisson obviously was defense player of the week a couple weeks ago. He's been solid, but they're still not getting after the quarterback like I think you would hope for a defense that's been as good as they have so far this year. And then the other way you think about it is adding depth. If one of those guys in Landry, who's older and has already been dealing with injury, goes down, then you got to rely on guys like Elijah Ponder, Anthony Jennings, if he doesn't get moved, who at least according to Jordan Schultz has potentially been floated in trade rumors. So we'll start with targets. We'll start with who the Patriots could go after. I'll throw Arden Key in the mix as the big one. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for the Patriots, given that he signed with Tennessee and Mike Vrabel in 2023. However, our friend Mike Giardi, friend of the show, friend of the CLNS Media Network, apparently reporting that Tennessee might be reluctant to trade with the Patriots because of how Vrabel left. He threw out that owner Amy Adams Strunk might not want these two sides to make deals. So that might ixnay a Arden Key, a Tony Pollard, perhaps. But on the topic, who should the Patriots go after, specifically in the edge rusher position?
I will say the pass rush wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was live. I think there were times where Michael Penix Jr. obviously scrambled, sometimes where he extended the play, not just running and keeping the ball, but also just making things happen outside the pocket. Not a ton, but just live, it felt like it happened more because it happened in some key times. And also, you got to give Penix credit because he let some throws go where there were defenders that were right by him and they just barely missed out on hits or sacks and things like that. But the Patriots actually led the NFL in pass rush win rate this week. Okay. So I had them as one of the bads in my initial film review because when you looked at a lot of the plays, like Penix Jr. did have over 2.5 seconds pretty consistently. So a lot of that was play action, but there were also some dropbacks where he just honestly hung in there and managed to work through pressure. At times, sometimes, he looked really off and you're like, what is going on here? And then other times he was completely unaffected, which is kind of what you also saw in his college tape. So I want to give credit there. They were first in pass rush win rate. They were fifth, I believe, in pressure rate. And when you look at the defense all season, when they don't blitz, they're a top 10 unit in win rate and pressure rate. So it's not like the Patriots pass rush has been bad. We keep highlighting there haven't been a lot of sacks. Part of that is the fact that when you look at their schedule, it's a lot of quarterbacks who are good at getting the ball out either very quickly or as pressure is getting to them. I think that's a pretty big part of it. Like you're not playing a Justin Fields or a lot of quarterbacks who are hanging onto the ball, but also can extend plays and make something happen afterwards. So pass rush, maybe we need to back off a little bit on them. Like Milton Williams was wrecking shop. There were a lot of twists in games, and I thought they could have been better. There were times where you could see them trying to go in different gaps, and they kind of run into each other, which would slow things down. But Milton Williams' effort and ferocity when he's trying to shoot gaps or when you leave him one-on-one is noteworthy, so he was really good in this game. Christian Barmore was pretty quiet. There were some times where he looked like he was about to get free on twists and was about to win, but I don't think he had any pressures in this game. I'm not even sure if he had any real wins one-on-one, so bit of a disappointing performance for him, albeit there was a lot of rotation on the defensive interior. And on the edges, Harold Landry had some really nice wins. Also, K'Lavon Chaisson obviously had the sack, but also a tackle for loss. I liked what I saw from him. So defensive front was pretty good. Also, on the big plays that the Falcons allowed, and I tweeted about this, they were in run. They had a run front where you had either Kyrus Tonga, Joshua Farmer, and or Corey Durden.
Mhm.
Those guys all flashed in pass rush situations, but they're not Barmore. They're not Milton Williams. So you can understand how, especially on play action dropbacks, and if there's a double team on one of those guys, it's going to be kind of hard for you to get the pressure that you would expect, like you said, from a unit that's putting so much money into the trenches. But I also got to say, man, Corey Durden, like 2 or 3 times he's third in the NFL or among defensive interior linemen in pass rush win rate. And you can kind of see that because he's more of a run defender. But when teams do drop back to pass, he has like 2 or 3 flashes a game where he'll either put somebody on skates or just toss them aside. And I think he had 3 of those moments in this game. So shout out to him, Corey Durden, a very sneaky positive addition who I'm trying to kind of build hype for because he deserves it, man. He's been playing pretty well, and I love his effort as a run defender.
Robert Spillane mentioned him after the game as well. He was asked about the defense around these guys and him throwing out Durden's name. I thought was interesting just because of how under the radar he really is, but has been playing pretty well across this defensive front.
And I didn't give you any names either. I just wanted to give the diatribe on the pass rush because it really hasn't been as bad as I think a lot of people have made it out to be and how I made it out to be after the game because I incorrectly thought that they weren't really getting home, but there was more pressure applied than I realized.
Do you want to do names and targets now or do you want to hit another ad break first?
Let's hit another ad break because my cat is freaking out. I'm going to go check on her real quick.
That's why I wanted to give it to you. So we'll talk about Omaha. Before I let you go, though, Taylor.
I'm going to miss Omaha. Oh, damn it.
Look at it.
There it is.
There's
okay. I'm gonna take this with me.
Go get the cat, but look at that steak. Look at that burger. Omaha Steaks. Another one of our favorite sponsors here on Patriots Daily. You get top sirloin, beef brisket, filet mignon, as you see on screen, just cooking on the grill. And they have a ton of special offers on omahasteaks.com. Right now, they are the official sponsor of tailgating. They have legendary burgers, mouth-watering steaks, deli-style franks, and so much more. And right now, they have 50% off site-wide. And with our code PATRIOTS, you can get $35 off the top as well. Terms apply. See site for details. But again, they got some of the best grass-fed, grain-finished, extra-age, USDA-certified meats. Again, steaks, burgers, wings, franks, brats, turn them into Philly cheesesteaks, all that good stuff right now on the Omaha Steaks. Taylor, I didn't do that on purpose. The video ended. But as you guys saw, omahasteaks.com. Use code PATRIOTS. They are 50% off site-wide right now. And then use code PATRIOTS at checkout. You get an additional $35 off the top. So quite the steal heading into the holiday season. Black Friday sale on the site right now. It's great stuff from Omaha Steaks. And we would appreciate you guys heading over there and using that code PATRIOTS to help us out and help them out as well. All right. Another 10 minutes go by, which means we are 20 minutes away from the trade deadline. Last big move across the league has been the Quinnen Williams deal out of New York. He is headed to Dallas. Sauce Gardner, of course, the other big one. But we're kind of waiting now. We're in a standstill. I know the Jets have been doing this fire sale. According to some reports, Garrett Wilson will not be moved. However, Breece Hall apparently does want to be moved. However, the Jets are asking for a third-round pick for Breece Hall. So feels like a little bit steep for the Patriots, especially considering the in-division thing. I've said it. You've ixnayed it. But, like, on the topic, if you did want to go get Breece Hall, you're trading in division, you would have to go up even further than the third-round pick they're asking for anybody else. So I don't see it happening. But we'll do offensive targets in a second. Let's start with defense, considering we're coming off of the Atlanta analysis there. Who could you potentially see the Patriots going after? Who would you go after on the defensive side of the ball to really bolster both the passing defense as well as the rushing defense?
So I think the run defense is fine, to be honest. I think they need just a better edge rotation because right now Anthony Jennings is your run stopper, but he's going to collapse the edge. He's just not a great athlete in terms of setting the edge against mobile passers. So if they can get out of the pocket, it's going to be tough for him to chase them down. That actually did happen once or twice against Michael Penix Jr. And then, of course, I like Elijah Ponder, but he's been very inconsistent, and Braden Swinson hasn't even been able to be on the Patriots game day roster. He's been living on the practice squad this year. So just looking at, one player who isn't on an expiring contract that's been mentioned is Jermaine Johnson. I do think he'd be a pretty solid target for the Patriots. Might be a little bit on the small side, but he is a pretty solid run defender. Like, he's not an exact liability out there. And he's got some pass rush juice. But as I've said before, I don't really see the Jets sending anybody to the Patriots. But if they were going to have a true fire sale and they didn't care where people went, I feel like Jermaine Johnson's probably your best option on the edge. If I'm looking at people whose contracts are going to expire next year, who've had some of the biggest effects, unfortunately, Odafe Owe was already traded to the Chargers. He would have been a name I was looking for. Draymond Jones was moved to the Ravens. So a couple of guys already been moved to thin out the market. I'm still not on the Trey Hendrickson train. I just do not think it makes sense for either side because the Patriots are building for the future. Trey Hendrickson would very much be a decision for now. And also not the kind of rotational player I think they need. They really need depth more than they need a bona fide starter because Harold Landry and Caleb Chason both coming off good games. Some names I could see potentially intriguing them in the really Alex Wright from the Browns.
Yeah.
He had a sack on Drake May, albeit it was on kind of a funky rep where Garrett Bradbury kind of put Hunter Henry into a tough spot. But he's someone who obviously Mike Vrabel has experience with from his time in Cleveland. Now, Vrabel was on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if they have any kind of relationship, but that's one name to potentially watch. Joseph Osai, I don't know if the Bengals would necessarily want to move him, but he is in the last year of his deal. He is a good pass rusher, might fit what they're trying to do on defense. I know that Marcus Mosher brought up Dante Fowler, guy with a bit of a twitch, more twitch than they really have in their, I was going to say more depth than they have, twitch than they have in their depth spot on the edge, but they really don't have a lot of edge depth, so that's not saying a whole lot. So Dante Fowler could potentially be in that mix. I know we mentioned Kingsley and Igbare from the Packers, maybe him, Elliott Wolf, if he's got still some tight connections with the Packers organization. But then it's not a really deep kind of group. Obviously, Arden Key is in the conversation because Vrabel knows him. They have experience. And that seems like a guy who would be a better fit in more of a rotation. No, he's probably not in your long-term plans, but he does shore up a spot that's thinner than you probably thought it was going to be heading into the season. So, yeah, it stinks that two of the better edge guys have already been moved. There are a couple of options out there, even if Jermaine Johnson isn't necessarily on the table once again, just going through them. Joseph Osai, if the Bengals would be willing to move him, I don't know if they are, but just a name that I like. Alex Wright and Dante Fowler probably at the top of the list.
Forgive me, did you throw – where are you at with Arden Key and his connection?
Oh, yeah, Arden Key. I'm sorry. I mentioned him last, but it would make sense.
That's fine. I don't know. I might have missed it. That's all.
Oh, yeah, no problem. But I think he makes a lot of sense, but I just don't really know where he's at in his career. But at least there's familiarity there. Yeah. He gives you some level of depth and experience rather than, you having to rely on Elijah Ponder, who, as I said, has been pretty inconsistent UDFA.
Yeah, he's the big one for me on the defensive side of the ball. And anyone really in that edge rushing, potential edge rushers, it's what they need the most. You mentioned it before, but their run defense is fine. And again, you mentioned it with the pass rush, the win rate. They were better than, I guess it showed in that game on Sunday, but with the depth and kind of where they're at, it's like one injury can kind of crumble that entire room. So I would like especially Arden Key, someone who I think he's 29 years old. So could be here. He's on an expiring contract, I believe, but someone who could potentially be either just a depth piece for the end of this year. You probably wouldn't have to pay too much. I think Tennessee's looking for anything they can get. Don't see him in their future plans. So that's the one that makes sense to me on the defense side of the ball. Offensively, no, go ahead. Do you have anything on defense?
I was just thinking also just getting some kind of pass rush depth, even if it's on the edge, would be pretty key because if Christian Barmore or Milton Williams were to have to miss significant time, while I do really like their depth, I don't think they have anybody behind them who you'd really want being on the field in obvious pass situations. Like Corey Durden's been good, yes, but that's also in a small sample size. I don't know how he'd look if you put him on the field more. So at least if you had a third edge rusher that you feel good about getting after the passer, maybe you could do some creative things in your front like we've seen where they'll put Barmore and Milton Williams on the edges for some stunts and twists. You have Caleb Chason and Harold Landry will sometimes line up on the inside. So at least it gives you a bit more depth and ability to be creative if you had to have a situation where your depth was stretched kind of thin.
Totally. Offensively, I think the one position continues to be running back, wide receiver. I'm not sold on, and I agree. I don't think you are either because we talked about the fit there. Breece Hall is the big fish in this conversation. However, the in-division trading doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. But Tony Pollard is a name that's been out there floated around. I know I mentioned the rivalry with the Titans owner, Amy Adams Strunk. But would you go after Tony Pollard? How do you think he could potentially fit here? And are there any other names on the offense side of the ball that you could potentially see the Patriots going after or names that you would want them to go after here?
Yeah, like Tony Pollard, that's a guy with experience. He'd be a rotational guy, so it's not like there'd be a ton of tread added to his tires necessarily. I haven't watched him super closely outside of just kind of preparing for that Tennessee game, but I really like his vision and his patience. Those are two things with young running backs that I think both guys are improving. And Terrell Jennings, we just have such a relatively small sample size, but at least Tony Pollard gives you somebody where you know what you're getting out of him. And I don't know if it's now, but I know he was a captain at some point with the Tennessee Titans. So another quality member you could add to the locker room. So I wouldn't be upset about him for sure. Chuba Hubbard, with how well Rico Daddle's playing. I saw the NFL Stock Exchange. I love those guys. Shout out to Trevor and Connor.
Yep.
They mentioned Chuba Hubbard as a guy who could potentially be a fit for the Patriots, and I'd be cool with that. That's another guy who I'd need to watch. If they did acquire him, I need to watch a little bit more. But he's an explosive player, and the Panthers liked him. I think he's just battled. Is it that he's battled injury this season? That's why Rico Daddle's really gotten
an injury. Yeah.
Right. So Rico Daddle's probably not moving. But if they did want to, give Chuba another opportunity with a team that really needs some depth, that would make some sense. Tyler Algier. Played him last week. He's a solid back, so maybe if you want to add a little bit more depth there. Running back market is not great right now, to be honest. But also, I think Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard are probably the two best names. And then Tyler Algier, I don't even know if they really want to disrupt that backfield because they
like to lean on him. They really do.
They like use Bijan as a receiver with him in the backfield, so that would probably hurt them. So maybe not. I don't know if he would really be somebody that wants to be moved. Also, when you look at a lot of these lists, there aren't many running backs, so I don't know how many are even being talked about. And of course, Jerome Ford. We've kind of talked about him a few times, and he makes a lot of sense as someone who can contribute as a receiver, as a rusher, and on special teams.
Funny tweet from Adam Schefter here a few minutes ago. As expected, Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown has not been and will not be traded by today's deadline. So I know we talked about it, that his contract wasn't tradable. We actually, a little behind the curtain here, we tried to scheme up an A.J. Brown trade targets piece for Sports Illustrated, and one of the main editors came in and was like, it's not happening. It's not worth our time.
Don't do it.
And they literally were like, instead, write a story on why A.J. Brown won't be traded, and here's why. So that's what we went with instead. So although I do find it noteworthy that Schefter said this, and I think that tells me that his name was in trade talks, and teams at least did reach out, and maybe they thought about a way to make it work. But unfortunately, just didn't get done there. So A.J. Brown not leaving the Eagles. However, if he were ever on the trade market, I believe the Patriots would be one of the teams that could potentially be involved.
I'll be back. My cat is walking on the sound bar and just continue. Can you hear the cat TV?
It's very, very light, but only when you don't talk. So I wouldn't worry about it. But
so annoying. I'll be
go
back.
ahead. You can go. You can pull me up on screen all alone here. Just under, there he is. There's the number. 10,000 of you watching live here across Patriots Press Pads and Twitter and Facebook and Twitch. We appreciate the heck out of all of you. This is good stuff. We are less than 10 minutes away from the 2025 NFL trade deadline. Patriots, among the teams that I believe many think could be and should be suitors for those on the market, given, frankly, surprise 7-2 start for this team. And need a little bit of help around the edges and on the edge, literally on the edge, but also just around the edge of the roster. Hi, Taylor. Welcome back. To try and get this thing across the finish line. And that's where my head goes with, like, the Indianapolis Colts. Surprise team. Surprise start to this year. And instead of being like, no, we don't know if we're there yet. Maybe we're a year away. But they sent 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell to the Jets to go get Sauce Carter. So they, again, I don't know if that's necessarily the right move by them. I mean, that's a lot of capital for a team that's still trying to figure out the quarterback position, and Daniel Jones might be fool's gold. Any noise coming from the Pats? No, not yet. But they went and they stuck their nose out and tried to make their roster better. So I would say kudos to them. But I don't know. Here's I guess we missed. I don't know what Amit's trying to say behind the scenes, but here's a super chat. While there's 10,000 of you guys in here, I'll mention that we will throw any and all super chats on. Oh, I get it, Amit. Good stuff. We will throw any and all super chats on screen right now throughout the end of this show. No matter how many we get, we will stay on stream until the super chats are done. So we appreciate this from you, Umbral Agent, for the super chat. Would you sign Asante Samuel Asante Samuel Jr. to this Patriots team?
That would make some, yeah. If he's willing to be a fourth string corner, yeah, sure. But I also don't know if he would be. He's still a pretty young player. So, I mean, yeah, I'd be all for it. I just don't know how realistic that would be for a team that has its top 3 corners locked in.
Fair point. All right, we are now under 10 minutes away, which tells me that I don't know how likely it is that the Patriots make a move here.
Should we do some expectation management for everyone who's disappointed in the chat?
Should we do that now, or should we do that after the deadline?
I think now, just so we can set the table before people get really upset, and then we can just we'll do a little wrap up. And
all right,
okay, how do they move forward with the positions that they didn't address?
Okay, so where are you at then? Expectation management. Well, like, should fans be upset that they didn't make a move? Again, keeping pace with the Colts of the world, who went out and made a massive splash. Mm-hmm. The Eagles went out and made 3 moves. They go get 2 corners, and then they also got was it Draymond Jones? I don't remember. Where did Draymond Jones go? To the Eagles?
Draymond Jones was to the Ravens.
Oh, the
Eagles
Ravens. Jalen Phillips. Okay, thank you. So the Eagles make moves. The Ravens at 2-5 or 3-5, whatever they are, make a move. And the Patriots sitting here and stay pat. Should fans be upset? Or do you think that this is okay considering the position they're in 1 year into the second version of this post-Belichick rebuild?
One thing I think that's important to remember with the Sauce Gardner trade is that Jarvarius Ward is on injured reserve for them. So corner was a pretty glaring need. I don't know that the Patriots have a glaring need, and Mike Vrabel pretty much said as much. That this, and what we've seen from reports is that they are looking for depth. They are not looking for a starting caliber player or any kind of star. Now, I'm sure if one fell into their lap, they'd think about it and try to make it work. But that was not what Mike Vrabel has told us. That's not what the reports have indicated. I think the best case scenario probably would have been Jalen Phillips. And obviously that one's out the window. So we have to be realistic that it has never really been in the cards for them to make a major splash before the trade deadline. And for where they are, I think that's okay, because this is a team that is still building. If they make the playoffs, that's fantastic. As we said, they're ahead of schedule, but they are still building. And if you're going to give a 3rd round pick for Breece Hall, why wouldn't you rather get a running back on a rookie deal who has far less tread on his tires next year for a 3rd round pick than someone who's going to be on the team for 1 year and maybe he sticks around? But because we've kind of spitballed, okay, if you did get Breece Hall, probably means that you are going to move on from Ramondre Stevenson at some point because you just drafted Travion Henderson. So something's got to give in that room. And we know they really like Ramondre Stevenson. Even you can critique the ball security, of course, but he is immensely valuable to them as a pass protector, which is very important in this system specifically. And he gives you versatility as a receiver and as a running back. And I don't really know what other splash signings they can make that would be realistic. You have 2 starting edge defenders, even if you do need more depth. Right. You have 3 starting corners. You have 2 safeties who are playing pretty well for you, and it feels like are getting better as the season goes on. So receiver was the one. I understand why people still thought that was a need and why they should have gotten a Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave or someone in that vein. But are you benching Kayshon Boutte? Are you taking reps away from Stephon Diggs? Mac Hollins is already going to be a big part of what you do on early downs, so that immediately takes away opportunities for anybody that you would have acquired. And once again, if you were going to send capital, what was the trade for Rashid Shaheed? Was it a 3rd round pick?
No, it was I think they sent a 4th and a 6th.
4th and a 6th.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have hated that, but again, it creates the potential to disrupt your receiver room, which already is looking pretty good and has young talent that's already struggled to get on the field. So when I talk about expectation management, we need to realize that we never really got much of an inkling that they were trying to make some big acquisition. And I don't think right now they're in a position where that would be prudent, considering you still have your quarterback on your rookie deal. You still have a lot of foundational pieces to add to this offense. Next year, you're going to need offensive line. You might need a true dominant wide receiver, so maybe that's how you spend your 1st round pick. And you also need a premier edge rusher, someone who's really twitched up and could potentially take over for a Harold Landry. Or if you don't want to re-sign or extend Caleb Von Chason, someone who can take over at that spot. So draft capital is still important. This is a team that is blowing away expectations, but a lot of it is because they have money tied up in their defense specifically. And also, obviously, they have a couple of veterans on the trenches who are on the older side and are going to need to be replaced. So don't be so eager to give away draft picks for players that teams don't want for one reason or another. Understand that, yes, they are all mystery boxes because they are draft picks, but this front office did a pretty damn good job this year. I'd like to see what they can do next year if they have all of those picks to continue to build, again, the foundation for this team, because you are not trading or acquiring players for 2025. You are doing it for 2026, or if you do 2025 and beyond.
100%. All right, we are under the 3-minute mark here ahead of the deadline. So I'm going to talk to you guys about our friends at Monarch really quick, and then we will be back 30 seconds prior to this deadline to react and see if anything were to happen here. But money, it's everything in this world, as you all know. It's why we work. It's why we work, and then it's why we go have fun. It's all about the money, so you can feel organized and confident in your finances with Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop and on your phone. And right now, for all of our Patriots Press Pass listeners, Patriots Daily listeners, all 10,000 plus of you here throughout the deadline, you have a special offer on Monarch Money right now. If you want to get your financial life together with us, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year with code Patriots at monarch.com. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is certainly for you. They do all the heavy lifting. They link all your accounts in minutes. Sorry, we got a deadline deal that I'm reading. It has nothing to do with the Patriots, so we'll hit it after. Don't leave money on the table. Download Monarch today. And do not let your financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code Patriots right now on monarchmoney.com in your browser, and you'll get half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com/Patriots. So, well, first of all, shout out Monarch. We appreciate you. We're under a minute here toward the deadline, and we do have a deadline deal not involving the Patriots, but rather the Saints and the Chargers. Saints are sending offensive lineman Trevor Penning to LA. LA lost Joe Alt for the season last weekend. They also lost Rashawn Slater earlier this year, so they are bolstering their offensive line unit with Trevor Penning. We'll see what the damage is for a return. But as we sit here with...
Also, the Titans are done trading, so no Arden Key, no Devondre Sweat. That was kind of put out there. Devondre Sweat was crazy. It's 4 p.m. officially. But then there's some that are like a couple minutes late, so we'll see. We'll stay on for a little bit longer.
Obviously. No moves for the Patriots, though.
I guess we can talk about the outlook at each of the positions that people are kind of worried about if we want to do that.
Yeah, we can. We'll wait here. We got a couple super chats here that we can hit too.
Awesome.
Would you rather be stuck on a deserted island with Mike Vrabel, Drake May, Jerry Jones, John Zanis, or Stephon Diggs?
Oh my God. Mike Vrabel, because I feel like he'd be the best at fighting off wild animals. Also, I'm not very strong. I'm probably a little bit more nimble. I'm definitely more nimble than everybody but Stephon Diggs on this list. So I feel like that'd be not Drake May. I don't think I'm more. I can cut it back though. I can cut it back.
Yeah, right.
No, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my God. No. Yeah, I'm going to go Mike Vrabel. I also feel like he'd be pretty funny.
He'd be funny. He's a leader of men. He would take charge of the tribe. I would be terrified on a deserted island. I would make Mike go kill all the food and bring it back to us. So I'll take Mike Vrabel.
We'd use Zanis as prey if we needed to like catch an animal. We just tie him up.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. You're like, no, John, it's okay. You're gonna be fine.
Yep. And here's another one. Why waste the picks in November when you can just waste them in April? Agreed. Mystery box when you can trade them for something that you know. However, you're still building for the future, not the end of 2025. So I get the premise. It's like, you're only trading away a draft pick. You don't know what's going to happen to it. You know what's going to happen with the guy you trade for. But I think it's still better right now to not completely mortgage the future for what's going to be a rental on a team that is still, like you said, trying to build a lot more so for the future than just the end of this season.
And also, like, how many guys do you see that were even talked about and floated in trades who you could see them acquiring and then immediately signing to a longer deal? There wasn't really anybody that would have been a no-brainer. Like, if you got Breece Hall, yeah, you're probably signing him to a longer deal. But even that, as we said, that didn't make a whole lot of sense for where their running back room is right now. So I like the joke. I appreciate the joke. But also, this front office has done pretty well so far. I got to say, when it comes to veterans and draft, so let's give them a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah. All right. Again, we appreciate and we'll put up any and all super chats throughout the end of the show here. We'll hang out for a couple more minutes, but it sounds like no more deals are being done across the NFL. So if we want to, Taylor, let's outlook running back and edge. Is that
running back, edge? We could talk about DBs too, just for the sake of it.
All right. Well, let's start with running back. So
a transaction was announced actually by the Patriots. The Patriots signed wide receiver Brendan Rice to the practice squad, released running back Jonathan Ward from the practice squad. So there
all
you go.
Right. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
So Brendan Rice is here. Get to learn from Jerry Rice's kid. Brendan Rice comes in, 23 years old, practice squad, gives them some help on the outside with Kayshon Boutte missing some time potentially with the hamstring. But besides that, no moves for the Pats. So let's start with running back. They don't make a move there. The room looks like Ramondre Stevenson, who's dealing with a toe injury. Travion Henderson, the rookie out of Ohio State. Terrell Jennings is on the active roster as well. And we have Dearness Johnson on the practice squad to round out the room. So they don't make a move. How confident or unconfident, or is unconfident a word?
Let me see.
How
inconfident, maybe?
How confident or not confident, maybe, are you in the running back room moving forward?
The correct word is unconfident.
Okay, I got it right.
Sounds disgusting, but I guess that's how you say it. I'm more encouraged after last weekend because we saw Travion Henderson in a different type of game plan, still managed to show that he is improving, better patience. There's some times where he's still maybe hitting the hole a little quickly, but it really helps when you have the contact balance that he showed. Also, both guys showing up pretty reliably as receivers, except for one kind of twisting drop from Travion Henderson. And Terrell Jennings ran hard, man. I really like what I've seen from him in his short opportunities where he clearly works very hard behind the scenes, and it paid off on the field. So I would feel a little more wary if it weren't for that. Especially, also, we don't know how long Ramondre Stevenson is necessarily going to be out, so that is still TBD. But if they didn't make another move, and we haven't heard about them being in the market for another running back on top of Dearness Johnson, who, as we know, they elevated from the practice squad, that as a three-headed backfield, I don't really mind because Ramondre is your bell cow. If, maybe you don't want to have him carry too much of a workload, you can mix Terrell Jennings in there for some short yardage situations or when you just want to continue to pound the rock inside. So I feel better about that position group after last weekend for sure. And it makes sense why maybe they didn't want to make a move at the deadline. But again, if you did bring somebody in, that'd be a pretty significant move, I feel like, to add to that backfield. But also, it could have just been additional depth, but I think they're okay there. Not great, but I think they're in okay position. Edge rush, I still wish they could have gotten someone with a bit more twitch. If they do suffer any kind of injuries, I am going to be worried about this position group, to be totally honest, because you don't want Anthony Jennings having to play an entire game. Milton Williams has the versatility to play defensive end. That's not where he's best, and you're paying him a lot of money. I remember when I was younger, I used to wonder, like in Madden, when you're playing Madden, does it make more sense to put a JJ Watt? Does it make more sense to put JJ Watt in a position where he draws attention and frees up other people? Or does it make more sense to use JJ Watt and put him in positions where he can win the most easily? Maybe that's a little more straightforward to most people, but at the time I didn't know. But it really does make more sense to put guys in the positions where they can succeed and they are your best players. Put them on the weak links. So you want Milton Williams inside. He can play there again, but I just wouldn't feel great if any one of these guys was to miss significant time. Maybe they still try to find somebody on the waiver wire, practice squad. I don't know, but it is still thin, even with Caleb Murphy, who I feel like it's been made very clear is not someone they see as really edge depth, maybe special teams, but he hasn't even been active yet. And then in the defensive backfield, Charles Woods has been solid when called upon, and I think that is significant. Maybe he's gained some confidence in them. Alex Austin, we haven't heard from him in a while, but as a fifth corner, you can absolutely do worse than him. So it's not terrible depth in that room. But still, if one of Gonzo or Carlton Davis or Marcus Jones was to miss time, you would be still in a tough spot. And safety. Del Pettis made a play on his only snap of the game. Give him credit for that. I wouldn't mind seeing more of Del Pettis in some niche roles specifically, but safety is a similar spot where if you did lose somebody, I don't know that you have the depth where people would feel confident. John Saunders Jr., you signed off Miami's practice squad, but still a guy who is inactive and is still going to have to learn your defense and is probably going to be more of a special teamer. So they had depth concerns before the trade deadline, and they still do. So you're going to have to hope for some good luck when it comes to injuries. But as we've said, when we tried to, go over the expectation management, there weren't a whole lot of great options if you were looking for really good depth that you could keep long-term. And the only guy in the edge specifically who made sense was Arden Key, but the Titans are done. So, you're kind of stuck with what you got. Okay depth rotationally, but I don't know about necessarily spot starters. I think that's where things look a little bit scarier, specifically in the defensive backfield and on the edge.
Yeah, I think in general, across the board, the starting lineups on both sides of the ball are fine. It's dealing with injury and dealing with depth and, rotations on the edge, etc. Like it's hard to rely on these guys, and Harold Landry's getting up there in age, to stay healthy. And we saw him almost get hurt earlier in the year. Like, you needed, I think they needed to add more to the roster in general for I guess an emergency switch if something were to happen at running back, at edge. I'm okay with the secondary. I think there's, safety would have been a little bit of a help just given the how young a guy in Craig Woodson is and how they're going to have to rely on him down the stretch. And I think that, look, I know that people have surprise Super Bowl run in their, in their thoughts with this team right now. Realistically, the chances of that happening compared to the chances of them making a Super Bowl in the future because of them not mortgaging said future and keeping things intact and building a culture to not have this be a one-hit wonder, but instead a Mike Vrabel, Drake May, and a talented roster around them pairing for the next decade. That's what should be the focus right now, and not necessarily making a brief run here to the Super Bowl coming up in February. We do have a super chat. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think their Super Bowl odds are if they stay healthy, which is obviously the biggest factor here?
Oh man, looking at the entire AFC.
I don't think there's anybody they can't beat, or who I'm like the Chiefs obviously are the juggernaut, but
right. The Chiefs are the one team that scares me.
I feel like they match up well with the Colts.
Definitely match up well with the Colts. I don't trust the Colts one bit. I think they play Kansas City in the coming weeks. I would like to see how they fare against them in the regular season to kind of be a measuring stick to how they can stack up down the stretch. Buffalo, I'm curious to see the Patriots versus Buffalo in game 2. And if that first one was a one-hit wonder type of deal, or if they can truly compete with them for 2 games in a row. Baltimore, I'm sorry, doesn't scare me. I think they haven't hit it enough this season. I know they got Lamar Jackson back and obviously made a couple moves here at the deadline for Jair Alexander and then Draymond Jones. So they might be a team that comes on here, but like Pittsburgh doesn't scare me. Obviously, Cincinnati is not going to make it, and they don't look good. Their defense is absolutely atrocious right now, and they just sold off with Logan Wilson too. So if there were to be a year where the AFC is just wide open for a team like the Patriots, like the Colts to go win it, it's this season, which is why I think people wanted them to make a move, right? Because it feels like they are in prime position to make a surprise run. Ultimately, I do think it's Kansas City's conference still, and I think it will be for, forever. That doesn't mean that a team can't beat them and make a Super Bowl on a whim, but you're going to have to get through Kansas City, and I think that's the one team that, that truly scares me in the conference.
Agree. Also think about how you would feel around draft season if you knew they traded a 3rd-round pick that could be your favorite, player that no one's talking about potentially, and instead they got a running back. You'd be pretty disappointed by that. And I feel like if people put themselves in the shoes of how they would feel during draft season, they feel a little bit better about the Patriots standing pat. But yeah, totally. Man, it's really just the Chiefs in the Bills and teams that have been to the AFC Championship multiple times and just understand what it means to be on that kind of stage. Because I feel like every year the teams that are hot but end up falling off are the ones that just collapse due to inexperience, whether it's the Ravens where Zay Flowers is getting penalized and taking big plays off the board, or just not really having the mental toughness to come through in some of the clutch situations. We know the Patriots have been resilient, but that's a whole different ball game. Yeah, man, I don't know. There's a whole lot of teams where I'm like, I don't know. I don't think they can win that game. I think that this is a pretty wide open conference with respect to the Chiefs looking like they're back and, probably going to be as scary as ever.
I'm with you. Let's hit a couple super chats here. First of all, thank you for the chats. And we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, I will say, to the 10,000 plus watching. Unless you guys throw in more super chats, then we're going to have to answer all of them. We can't leave until the super chats are gone. That's just how it goes. I'm not begging for, I'm not begging for cash here, but that is the rules. We can't leave until they're up. So, my Patriots brother, Mike and Taylor, are the New England Patriots. Do they need to pick up Myles Garrett? Let's go, Pats Nation and my Patriots family. Love it. Would have loved Myles Garrett. That 2 first-round pick deal that the Colts did for Sauce Gardner, I would have done that for Myles Garrett. I think that would have been a wise. I know we talked about that on the show a couple weeks ago. That might have been more wise than doing it for a Sauce Gardner. But I guess they can't trade for Myles Garrett anymore. But would you have liked Myles Garrett if it were to happen?
Yes, but not for. I've come down on it. I really was in a bind. And look, if they did, I wouldn't sit here and be like, oh, what a dumb move. But I like the idea better of securing your first round picks and being able to have guys who are cheap, cost controlled, and potential difference makers early on in their careers versus Myles Garrett, who could still be here for like 3-4 years. That is one of those acquisitions that obviously would look long term, but that's a lot of money to give to Myles Garrett when you're already paying a lot of guys on your. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. It's Myles Garrett. You pay what you have to. But I don't think that's the best. That would have been the best move for a team in the Patriots position, even though it would have been sweet, obviously.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. That would have been the one where it's like, oh shit, they're really into it. They want to go win this thing right now. No questions asked. They believe in this team, and they believe in, frankly, that being 2 first-round picks that they don't really need because they have Myles freaking Garrett along the defensive line. So wishful thinking, but doesn't happen. One more super chat here. We appreciate it. I will say that again. What do you think about the Bills not doing anything with the Jets having a fire sale, the Dolphins also selling? Not a bad trade deadline for us. I would have still liked them to do something. Like, I don't think it's a bad deadline for the Pats. I just don't think it was a great one. I think there was room to improve this team, especially with all the rumors flying around that they did want to try and add some depth, and they obviously didn't. Buffalo not doing anything. I think they could have maybe used a wide receiver, like call it a Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, to kind of take them over the top. But I'm definitely happy that they didn't make a move because it opens up the AFC East that much more for the Patriots, who just beat them less than a month ago.
Yeah, so there was Von Miller and somebody else was rumored to potentially get traded to Buffalo. It was one other player. Do you remember?
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know what you're talking about. I saw this report earlier, and now I can't think of it.
Debo. There was some talk about Debo joining the Bills. That's the big thing. The Bills not getting receiver help is fantastic for the Patriots, because that was, if they had gotten like an Olave or Rashid Shaheed, I might have been a little salty about that because I don't need them getting any more firepower, and I really like how the Patriots match up with them as they're currently constructed. So great. The Bills not doing anything, stand pat, even though they are starting to look better, obviously. Just put the Chiefs in a locker. And the Patriots, like, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I'm fine with it. If they had gotten more depth, that would have been awesome, but I wasn't expecting much, and I didn't get much, so I'm not disappointed.
Fair. Stan Smith comes in and says, go Pats. No question. Go Pats, man. Just loving a super chat. We appreciate you, Stan. And then him comes in with a super chat, so we officially did nothing. Yes, we officially did nothing. This is the roster you get for the Patriots. Or I guess they could make moves on the waiver wire and things like that, but no more trades for this Patriots team. So it's basically what you're getting. What you have is what you're getting for the rest of the season, which is a 7-2 team through 9 weeks who has taken care of business, which I can't fault them at the end of the day for wanting to keep this team together. So,
yes, sir.
Any more final closing thoughts here as the Patriots officially make no moves at the 2025 trade deadline and now move forward into what is, I would say, their biggest, if not their second biggest test of the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this coming Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that running back depth is going to get tested once again because Todd Bowles is going to be sending a special pressure package just for Drake May and the Patriots pass protection, which against the blitz was very boomer bust. What I counted, the true blitzes, I counted 10 positive plays for the Patriots, but 11 negatives, and it was a mixed bag in terms of who was responsible. There was some Drake May, there was some on the offensive line, and the running backs, Travion Henderson, who I thought is continuing to look better. Like he's not getting holds. He's not getting beat cleanly the way he was at times earlier this season, but sustaining blocks has still been a bit of a challenge. So who knows? Maybe Terrell Jennings gets some opportunities. I don't know if you necessarily want to take those from Travion Henderson, but we also don't know if Ramondre Stevenson will be healthy or not. So the running back depth will be tested. And obviously Baker Mayfield, man, he's looked much improved. He will give you some turnover-worthy play opportunities, so that'll be important. But, the secondary is going to get tested in this edge rush because you're going up against Tristan Wirfs, one of the best left tackles in football, but it is a very vulnerable right side of the Buccaneers offensive line. So hopefully Harold Landry can have a big day, and fingers crossed for good health the rest of the season. I think that's the biggest thing right now. And I mean, there's a lot of teams that want more depth at certain positions. You can't always have a stacked roster. That's kind of how it goes, especially for a rebuilding team. But at least they have some bodies who can hold down a spot, even if they aren't going to have the ability, like a young depth player who can come in and get valuable experience that maybe carries them into the future while also being a guy who you don't mind playing a lot. I don't know if they have that, but at least they have some veterans at each of those spots to potentially go in.
Totally. All right. While we were on our rant, a couple more super chats.
Oh, okay.
Juan, appreciate you. Upset that Tennessee was stingy with the Patriots. I agree. I would like to hear more to not just simply speculate, but Mike Giardi did mention that Titans might have been reluctant to deal with the Patriots considering the history between them and Mike Vrabel. So that would have, in theory, taken Arden Key, Tony Pollard, and even Calvin Ridley, who was potentially out there, off of the board for them. But at the end of the day, those weren't like make or break deals. I think maybe Arden Key would have been a good one. Tony Pollard, same thing. But like, that's just overall looks worse on the Titans than the Patriots, really. Patriots tried. If the Titans are going to be like that, then that's bad for them because they can't get deals done on that way. And
Mike
then
Vrabel really just be leaving people salty. It was Bill, now it's the Titans. I guess it already was the Titans, and this is just maybe the latest example. But damn.
Yeah. Another one here. Pats versus Bucks. That is what's coming Sunday. So a little team. Hey, we'll take it. I'll sit here and just read.
Oh, hell yeah.
Comments. No, I know, but you guys can ask questions with these super chats. But hey, we appreciate it nonetheless. But yeah, Pats Bucks this weekend. And spoiler alert, we will have a crossover Patriots Beat Patriots Daily tomorrow. Recapping the deadline, recapping the first half of the season, bringing you into the second half of the season. With Alex Barth, Brian Hines tomorrow, TBD on the time, but we are crossing over with those guys tomorrow. We haven't done it since the regular season started, I don't believe. So should be a fun one there. And then Puddles comes in with a super chat. What about Judon on the Dolphins? Would you have traded for Matthew Judon? I know it didn't happen, but would you have ever tried to bring him back? I don't think that was happening.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
I'm with you.
All
right. Well,
bring back John Jones.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for the trade deadline special on CLNS Media, a Patriots daily version here with myself, Mike Kadlick, and Taylor Kyles, our lead beat reporter here on CLNS. Patriots make no moves at the trade deadline. They keep it and they stand pat after going 7-2 through the first half of the year. So this is what you get. And this is how they will finish the season, barring any waiver wire moves or potential practice squad or things like that. But the bulk of this roster is staying. Anthony Jennings stays, which is noteworthy, considering he had been floated out there. But no moves for the Pats heading into this Sunday and into the second half of the year. So thank you guys all.
One more super chat.
Okay, one more super chat. Same Sosa. Do you think Max Crosby will ever be a Patriot?
God, I hope so. That'd be sick. I don't think it'll happen, but that would be incredible.
I know. I feel like if it was going to happen, it would have been this trade deadline, considering just where the Raiders are. Like, they're not good this year. They could potentially be building where next year they could turn it around, and then they're not going to trade for Max Crosby. So if he was ever out there, I think this is the year he would have gotten him. But
didn't he say he doesn't want to leave Oakland specifically?
Yeah.
Or Vegas. Oh,
yeah, same thing.
Dude, it's been like 10 years. That was
I do that too.
When were they the Oakland Raiders last, actually? When was that even? Was that literally 10 years ago?
Or John Gruden. I think Gruden was Vegas. So
let's see.
It's a while ago.
Jeez, this is a big-ass Wikipedia page.
We also got a For the Love of the Game super chat here. Walter Phillips.
Thank you so much. That's dope.
No question. So we appreciate it.
When did the Raiders become Vegas? 2020s. Oh, wow. It feels like even longer ago.
Yeah, it does.
Wow. So that's what you pay the super chats for.
Yeah, exactly.
Public information.
this riveting back and forth here. But at any rate, now that's gonna do it. Unless somebody comes in with a last minute super chat at the buzzer of my final post amble here from this show. Maybe not. But at any rate, we'll be back tomorrow here on the show. So rate, review, subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. Plenty of other pods coming, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow. So don't miss out. It's the best place to get your Patriots news and coverage. It's Patriots Press Pass for anyone who is new to the channel. We have a ton of great pods here and game coverage at games. We're there, etc. So don't miss out. Subscribe to the channel. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Taylor, good stuff today. Hey, we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.